Hi, my name is Abraham. I'm in the Child Family Consumer Sciences Department. And the course that I'm redesigning is our CFS38. It's our lifespan development course. The key elements of my course redesign, there are a couple things that I want to focus on. I don't plan on implementing all of them at one time, but definitely over the next couple years kind of adding new pieces. One of the things that I want to do in the fall is to use clickers. I've never used clickers before, but I think it'll be really useful for a class that has about 106 students in it. And I've wanted to use clickers to help with student attendance and student engagement, which are really strongly related to one another. And I think that by using clickers, I can test the students' current knowledge on previous lectures and then determine how much more I need to cover certain topics, especially before the exams, and to see just how much they're really taking in. So I think that I'm going to use that as a way to kind of constantly modify my lectures, not only in that class at that specific time, but also in classes in the future. So I think that's going to help both with attendance and with class engagement, at least I hope it will. I also would like to use my writing lab. I'm planning on previewing it the next month of this summer, seeing if that's going to be something that really will be useful for my students in this course. And I hope that, so this will kind of come into play later when I talk about how I'm going to try to assess my course redesign. I'm hoping that will make papers easier to read, but students will also be learning in the process of that, of learning how to understand sort of grammar and different types of writing errors that I've found in the past. And I have allocated a specific part of their grade on that paper to writing errors and grammar, and it's usually a big, I'd say about 15 points, so about 15% of the paper that goes to those points. So a lot of the students do not score well in that section. So another thing that I'm hoping to kind of play around with also is doing more discussion board activities. I've done that in the past, gotten really positive feedback from students, especially in relation to lifespan development, because we have a lot of interesting topics that, there are different cultures that have various perspectives on something. They'll get that from the discussion board. You might ask something about, what's your opinion on this type of parenting practice? And so I'd like to do that. I just don't want to overwhelm the students. Right now I have weekly quizzes, these My Virtual Child assignments that they ultimately write a paper on, but they have to be doing something each week. So I need to look around and determine if that's something that is kind of going to be asking too much of the students, or if it's more reasonable, or maybe even removing something else and trying to use discussion more. The other thing is, what I'd like to do in this class is use more video clips to illustrate some of the concepts. I think that really drives it home for some students when they can see, if you're talking about PHDA stages as an example, what it looks like for a child who can conserve and who cannot conserve. So the course will be different this next semester, and hopefully the preceding semesters as well, in that I haven't ever used clickers, and I think that's also going to help with attendance, making sure that students are actually coming to class. And I think that my writing lab, my understanding of it now seems like it could hold a lot of promise. And the discussion board, I'd really like to use that in more of my classes, and this is something that I've really gained from participating in the academy, is learning about all these different things, that I'm not only going to be changing this one course. I feel like I'm going to use a lot of the things that I've learned in each of my classes and just take bits and pieces that I think, this is what was happening as I was sitting in the sessions and just thinking, wow, that sounds great for our cooperative education course, or that sounds great for my at-risk youth class. And so that's what I think. I'm just going to be adding things, and part of this is really having the time to explore these different resources and these tools so that I can see, am I comfortable enough with actually using this in my class, and is it going to really be a beneficial addition. So how do I plan on assessing my course redesign? Well, one way, and I'm going to think about this more, but I'm thinking of just comparing quiz and exam scores of after we're using the clickers and seeing if that actually, if they're higher on average than what I've had in the past. Comparing writing scores also with their papers, because they go through 2 drafts of their papers, and again, there are certain points that are allocated to that. So I can look at overall scores, but then I can even analyze it a little bit deeper and look at sort of the subsection. So each of the papers I can look at have the writing scores, are the writing scores higher in this course than they have been in the past. And then I think what will be even more useful than that comparison is comparing sort of future classes as I make more of these changes and seeing what works and what doesn't work, which is partially why I don't want to overwhelm myself as well as overwhelm the students with having too many changes all at once. And I think just trying to implement one thing in each class, each semester, specifically for this one, maybe starting out with doing clickers and then adding maybe clickers and my writing lab in the spring. Because I know that I'm going to be learning right alongside the students, if not more, in terms of having to figure out, well, how do I use these clickers? How do I connect it to my gradebook and Blackboard? What happens when there's an issue? A lot of the things I can't really anticipate what the issues are going to be until I'm actually in the course, and then I think I'm going to be doing a lot of playing around myself once an issue comes up and figuring out, well, why did this go wrong, or what can I do to make this not happen in the future? So my general timeline, I will definitely implement one of these elements in the fall. Again, I'm thinking the clickers, I will implement those in the fall. And then I think with each section and maybe my writing lab, I'm going to look more deeply into my syllabus right now and figure out with the point distribution if I can do the discussion board, if it's something at this point that I want to do less of one assignment so that we can do more of this. So I'm going to think about that. Some critical things that I've learned in the academy. I've learned a ton. I would say one of the things that I think is going to be most beneficial for me at this point is Blackboard and sort of these new changes. A lot of things that seem like with this new package, we're going to be able to do things that will just save a tremendous amount of time. And I think especially with being able to figure out how to prevent students from having problems with submitting an exam and getting kicked off the internet. Also, being able to do the Blackboard Collaborate. I think that might be really interesting with an online class, and I teach CFS38 online as well. But I have to think more about how that might work, trying to figure out how everybody's schedules. I might be able to do something like that. But I really thought that was a very interesting feature that has a lot of potential. Also, another thing is learning about resources that are available to students. One of them, SupportNet, that I think seems like a very useful resource. And overall, just different ways to make my classes more interactive using technology. Current concerns that I have about the course redesign, I'd say the biggest concern is that I just don't want to do too much. I know that I don't want to be completely overwhelmed in one class and that it ends up taking time from some of my other classes. So I think the best way to do that is just to make it more manageable by adding one thing at a time and testing it out. So that's why I think that's also part of the reason why to be careful with it is that it really is a testing period and trying to figure out, well, do I really know how to use this system? Am I comfortable with it? Is it working? Is it not? Then come spring, if the clickers don't seem to be ideal for this class, or they're not sort of functioning optimally for the class, then I might then focus on doing something else. But I feel like the best part about this workshop is that we have so many tools now that we have a lot of things to select from. Alright, so I think that's it. I've really enjoyed the Academy, and I'm excited that I had the opportunity to participate in it. So thank you.